Burnout's a real thing, and I think we've all been there. I think everybody from the top of the wrestling community to the bottom has felt it, and I don't think anybody's wrong for feeling that way at times, and it's okay. It's completely okay to take a day off. It's completely okay to text whoever it is you were. Luckily, I said love wrestling. Say, hey guys, today's not my day. Like,
Mm.
sorry I wasn't as active in everything that we were doing, and they'll understand. And I think that that's a cool thing. Like, you don't have to have your foot on the gas pedal 24/7. I don't think anything less of anybody that says, you know what, I only want to do a podcast two times a month because I get burnt out if I do it anymore.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Flourish, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine. I'm joined by PLUGGO from Between Two Beards and For Exposure. So welcome back on the show, my friend.
What's up, Tom? Well, I'm glad to be back. I've always loved chopping it up with you, man.
So, same as I do with you, my friend. So if we take this back, PLUGGO, I know we talked about this a bit last time, but we've grown a lot since our last chat. So where do you first discover wrestling as an overall fan?
Where do I first discover wrestling as an overall fan? Back when I was a kid, I think like all of us, most of us, if not all of us, grew up in the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars. I'm sure I have some faint memories of the time before that, but that's the most vivid for me. Was just waiting until 8 o'clock for Monday Nitro to come on and fighting with my brother and sister over the TV to get to Monday Nitro because it was on before Raw, and then flipping back and forth. And I was always a Nitro guy because it was longer. It was at 8 o'clock, so I was already invested by
Mm.
the time Raw kicked on. But as I got older and WCW fizzled out, WWE, but yeah, so I've been a fan pretty much since I was a kid.
You talk about their fighting with your brother and sister and things like that. Is that because they were wrestling fans and they wanted to watch Raw, or because they wanted to watch something completely different?
Well, if I'm being honest, it's because one of them was not a wrestling fan. My sister, she just always wanted, we had to fight over who got to watch it when. We had to make sure my brother and I would fight because he was also a wrestling fan and we would just do all the moves. But then, of course, brothers being brothers, it always goes from just playful wrestling to mom, somebody hurt me. And then,
Yeah,
yeah. And I don't know how many couches or tables or chairs have been broken in my lifetime, but I can probably tell you my mom spent a pretty penny on furniture.
I can imagine. So when you do discover wrestling and you said you were more of a Nitro guy, what was
Yeah.
it that attracted you to Nitro? I know you said it was the length, but what
It was
was it
on
overall?
earlier. It was on earlier. It was on at 8. It was just I was a young kid. I didn't know any better in terms of like I just knew it was on at 8 o'clock. I really dug the NWO and
Mm.
that whole angle. I was really into it. Carl Malone, I'm a big basketball fan, so Carl Malone
Mm.
wrestling, like I'm like, oh, Nitro's got Carl Malone, DDP. Dennis Rodman is my second favorite basketball player of all time. So just that whole era, the vibe, but I wasn't like hard and fast Nitro was it. I didn't watch the other. I would flip back and forth. I love Mick Foley. I love the Attitude Era, Stone Cold. I went to the local shows when they would come around here when I was younger. So like I was a fan. I just preferred Nitro when I was in my not knowing any better little pluggo days.
Mm. You talk about little Pluggo days there. What would you say little Pluggo would think of wrestling as we record this in 2024?
Well, luckily for me, I've got a little pluggo running around and I've got four, but I've got one, like my youngest is hooked. He loves it.
Yeah,
And he just loves watching it. He loves the spectacle of it. He doesn't worry about the things that I worry about as an adult. He just goes, I think that guy is cool. I like that guy. I think that girl's cool. I like her. And then he reenacts all the moves and he's now breaking my couches and it's all come full circle. So I think little me today would be like him, my littlest one right now, just enamored with it and just loving to watch it, just enjoying the spectacle of it. He doesn't get too worried about who's fighting who and what's going on backstage. He just worries about who's on the screen and is if Bobby Lashley's going to win today.
Mm.
So
So you also talked about there being a big basketball guy. So who is your favorite basketball player of all time? You told us your second. Who is
oh
your favorite of all time?
Hakeem Olajuwon of the Houston Rockets. I was a Rockets fan growing up. I grew up in the I'm close to Chicago. I'm from South Bend, but
Mm.
everybody was a Bulls fan, and rightfully so. But I wanted to be different, and I found the Houston Rockets, and Hakeem Olajuwon's my guy.
Mm. So
So,
you talk about who in well, as you were growing up, you talk about who was your guy in basketball. But who was your guy in wrestling as you were growing up? You talked about Foley in the NWO, but did you have any more?
I think when I was really little, I really was drawn. The first wrestler I remember being like absolutely infatuated with was Mick Foley, Mankind, because it was a guy that
Mm.
didn't look conventional, didn't have all the muscles, and he just was different and his vibe was different. So I think for me, that's my like first wrestler I remember going, that guy's cool. But I always loved, like, I thought the NWO angle was really cool. Like, who didn't love just being able to do whatever you wanted? And obviously, the Stone Cold kicking his boss's ass all the time. So, like, I think Little Me didn't have like absolute favorites. I think I just enjoyed all of it. But yeah, Mankind for me was the guy. I think his book is sitting back here somewhere. Have a nice
Mm.
day. And somebody bought that for me when I was like 12, and I lost it. And luckily, I found it cheap at a like a resale store, and I picked it up because yep, Mankind is he's the guy. He's the guy
Mm.
for me.
Who is your sort of they're the guy for me now? Where is your current fandom as we record this? Obviously, before we get into your work with Love Wrestling and things like that, where is your current fandom as we record this? And who is your current they're the guy for me?
Oh man, that's tough. It's tough now because I consume so much of it. I have different people for different reasons, and like I love Becky Lynch. I think she's absolutely fantastic. Rhea Ripley's killing it right now as well. But like Cody's been on a tear. It's so hard for me to hammer down like one favorite wrestler when I
Mm.
look at him and I go, that's my CM Punk is back, who's an all-time favorite of mine, like one of my Mount Rushmore is number one, probably. He's back, so that's really cool, but we'll see how long it lasts. So it's hard to pick one. I have different reasons for different things. I love Thunder Rosa. She's sitting back here on my shelf. Like you just it's tough, man. It's tough when I watch so much. I don't know how others do it. If anybody in content creation is out there and they hear this and they go, I have a favorite. What's wrong with this guy? Tell
Yeah,
me how you do it, because there's so many talented wrestlers in the world right now.
it's a very good problem to have, though, isn't it? Where
It's
you're like,
super good problem
I
to
would
have.
rather definitely not it being a monopoly in there not being a monopoly in town anymore, is what I'm
No,
saying.
like I love Swerve. Swerve's killing it right now. I hang on everything Swerve does. Like it's tough, man. It's tough to pick. It's tough to pick one.
I understand, my friend.
The
So,
hard questions. How I came here for a fun chat. You're putting the hard questions out there. What are you
you know, this
doing?
is how we do this on this show. You
Man,
know this.
grilling me, dude. Grilling me.
So, you talked about the fun chats and things like that. So, how do you get started in the world of content creation and things like that?
Um, well, boredom, really. Like I used to be into sports writing. I tried that for a little while. Nothing major, but I had a couple writing gigs, and I had some social media doing just putting my thoughts into the world, something to do. And then like I realized as I got older and like sports is which I'm saying this now, realizing how wrestling has turned into what it's turned into. But sports is like it's a 82 games, it's 162 games. And like it's a lot of like you have to be
Mm.
in that moment to be able to write about it or be in that vibe. So I kind of stopped doing it for a little while, and then uh see about 7 years ago now, 6 or 7 years ago now, I my wife and I were trying for a baby. We had a miscarriage, and just trying to keep my mind off of that and just like that
Yeah.
heartbreak that our family was going through. Like I started to really like oh, I watch wrestling all the time, and I just need to put my efforts into something. So I actually put them into that and just started small with a little Facebook page or a little Twitter, trying to like, just tweet out my thoughts about wrestling. Because like, if you think about it, there's not a ton of wrestling fans. It's a very niche thing.
Yeah.
Like it's growing. Don't get me wrong. The popularity of the sport is absolutely exploding, but like it's niche, right? Like when you talk to a non-wrestling fan, what do they say? Oh, that fake fighting stuff. Oh, that fake stuff. So like it's a hard. So, but on the internet, online, anywhere really, like if you post something, you might find a person or two that agree with you. You might find somebody that like, oh, I like what this guy had to say. Like I'm gonna follow him, and then you maybe become friends. So it was kind of like a way to like put my thoughts to ease a little bit, and like because I always feel like if I'm doing something, not that I'm not thinking about the major life event, but I can manage it a little bit better because I'm
Yeah.
also not just overly thinking it. So yeah, that's how I got started. I wasn't even Pluggo at that time. I was literally anonymous. I was Wrestling Plug Inc. I didn't have a name, didn't have a face to this thing. I was just tweeting.
Mm. So you talk about their becoming Pluggo and things like that, and also you talked about how content creation has changed. So how have you
Mhm.
seen, before we get into how you became Pluggo and things like that? How have you seen the content creation space change in the last 7 years?
Well, I mean, TikTok has exploded as an opportunity for me. For me personally, it just gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger. It just became like, oh, so you're just tweeting a little bit, and then somebody, then you become, like I said earlier, you become friends with some of these people in the space and
Mm.
like-minded people, and then you start working with those like-minded people and maybe doing some interviews here and there, maybe be going on a podcast or two. So it's grown, like it's rapid, it's quick. Like the content creation space as a whole is like anywhere I go, any social media platform I go, there's somebody with, you can find their thoughts as soon as a main event ends. They'll tell you how they felt about it, or they'll tell you in the moment about a segment they didn't like. And then there's just new places to put it. There's new spaces. And I think for a lot of the bad that the internet wrestling community has in it, there's so much good, and there's so many cool people that you can find, yourself
Mm.
included, where you can go and say, oh, I can't wait to hear what Tom has to say, and you can go there and you can be in a
That's never
community.
gonna happen.
But I'm saying like there's a community of people that think like you, and so it's very cool to see that it's grown to the point where like you if you want it, you can find it. And it's
Mm.
grown for me exponentially that I never expected. So can't complain.
I understand what you're saying completely there. You talk about people becoming sort of, as I call it, Twitter friends and wrestling friends as your
Mm-hmm.
content creation career has grown, for lack of a better word. Do you remember some of your first sort of, before you even created the Pluggo account, do you remember some of your first, like, this is someone I'm going to follow? I think they're very interesting. And then
Yeah.
are you still in touch with, or do you still check out their work or opinions to this day?
Oh, 100%. I'm the kind of guy that if you've ever, extended a hand to me, let me on your show, let me be a part of what you're doing, or came and been a part of what I'm doing, I'm your fan. I'm your number one fan for life. Like I will do my best to plug as much of your stuff as possible and wish you the most success. Early on, when I decided to get out of just doing the tweeting, and then like started to become more apparent that it was me doing the pages, like a few friends had reached out and was like, is that you, man? Like that seems like something you do. And then
Mm.
cat started to spiral out of the bag, and then I thought I started like maybe I'll start doing some interviews a little bit here and there, some audio stuff. One of the first guys that really like I reached out to that I was like Mr. Warren Hayes of the Mr. Warren
Yeah.
Hayes show. I followed him. He is one of my favorite people in this world, one of my favorite people in this space. I still work with him here and there. Like he comes on Beards, and we chop it up there. But he was actually the guy that dubbed me Pluggo. Like everybody just kind of he was like, I'm sick of saying Wrestling Plug Inc. Like that's so long. And he goes, Pluggo, that's you. And then everyone started like calling me that. And then it just dawned on me one day. And I was actually I was working with Love Wrestling at the time, and I said, "Hey, Spencer, like I know this is crazy, but like, what do you think about me just kind of adopting this persona, this name, because like I'm
Mm.
behind this Wrestling Plug Inc. moniker, and it's really just me anyway. It's all the thoughts are me. It's my page. It seems like I'm a brand, but really I'm the brand, right?" And he's like, "No, you should do that." And like, so Warren will always joke that like his one gift to professional wrestling, whenever his time is up, will be that he dubbed me Pluggo, and everybody kind of took off with it. So I can't take full credit for the name, but he's a guy that like early on has always been like a mentor to me, willing to sit there and like kind of like listen to my thoughts if I have any questions about anything in this space. So it's really cool.
Mm. I understand what you're saying there. You talk about Warren being a mentor and things like that. What is the biggest thing that you learned through content creation, maybe about yourself, but then also what has Warren taught you when it comes to content creation?
Oh man. Um, One of the big things I think I learned from Warren and just in general, like my biggest thing I tell people is if you're gonna be there, be there. If you say, "Hey, Thursday nights, 8 o'clock, that's our show, that's where we're gonna be there, be there." If things come up, things come up. Everybody's understanding, but like getting into that repetition of like, hey, so your fans when they come, they're like, all right, yep, he's there at 8. Because I used to when I first started, I used to do a little podcast just myself when I finally decided to branch out into some audio. I would just release it whenever I felt like I wanted to, but then it becomes very sporadic, it becomes very spacey, and it was like, if you're going to do Thursday at 8, do Thursday at 8. And he'd always like, if I bounced an idea, maybe he wouldn't like tell me exactly what to do with it, but he'd say, maybe that's too grand of an idea, dial
Mm.
it back just a little bit, and then I think you've got it. Because early on I mean, a lot of my stuff is DIY, throw it at the wall and hope it sticks. And then if it sticks, run with it. If it doesn't, we just refine it, we try again. Because like I said, that's how I've learned in this thing. I've had a lot of help, don't get me wrong, but I've also done a lot of like plug and play, see what works for me, see what doesn't work for me, and I think that I'm doing okay.
Oh, definitely, man. So you talked about the fact that he was working with Love Wrestling at the time when you met Warren and things like that. But where do you start? How do you join Love Wrestling, first of all? And then how do you start your podcast with a great man that is JPJ?
Well, I met Warren before Love Wrestling, so that's where I started. But then when I
Um,
but then how I got linked up with Love Wrestling was Warren. It was a Warren Hayes thing. He was doing like a monthly. He used to do like uh what's the word I'm looking for? React or previews to pay-per-views or prediction shows. And he had Spencer on, Spencer Love, who's the founder of Love Wrestling. And I just really like the way that those two vibed. And I'm the type of guy that if I watch your show and I like how you vibe, I'm gonna hit you with a follow. Those follows are hard to get. If I think you're entertaining, like I'm in, like, and I want to see where you go from there. You know what I mean? So him and Spencer had a really fun vibe. They were jiving. I liked it. Started following Spencer, and just so happened that he was starting Love Wrestling around that time frame. I think they started January of 2020, like January 1st.
yeah.
So I had already kind of been following Spencer, and then I just became a fan, and I just used to be in the chat, and I used to just back when I started, I never thought I would be the guy that people would retweet and plug his stuff. So I used to just like plug people I liked, like go check these people out, go check these people out. I still do that, but it's crazy to think that that was my main goal, is like, let me get everybody else over, and now I'm starting to kind of get over. It's kind of a humbling thing to think about. Like, but yeah, so he there was just Zach was used to do an NWA Power show after show,
Mm.
and they were looking for a guest host, and I tweeted it out. I said, "Hey guys, Love Wrestling's looking for a guest host. If anybody's down, like it would be a cool opportunity." Again, I'm doing a little bit in the video podcasting at this point. I'm working with Throwback, doing some stuff like that, but I'm still not like super confident, super comfortable in my own skin.
Mm.
But he said, but Zach goes, "Hey, why don't you just do it? You're the one tweeting it out. Why don't you come on?" And I was like, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, no problem." So like I came on an episode of Power, really liked the vibe. They reached out to me a couple days later and said, "Hey, we really liked what you had going on there. Like, WrestleMania season's just around the corner. We'd love to have you. If you're interested, what would you like to do? What are you available to do? And I said, oh yeah, no problem. Like, so,
Mm.
cause I was already a fan. JPJ was already in the mix at that point. Um, and I'm the type of guy that if I commit to something, I want to be in it. So I was like, any stream you want me on for that WrestleMania stretch, I'm in, right? If you want me night one, night two, whatever it may be. I was like, I don't want to sound over eager, but I will do anything you got. I'll take it. Like, I'm so excited somebody even thought to ask me. Um, so I ended up doing a night two stream, I think, of WrestleMania with JPJ and some others. And we clicked, and he messaged me and said, hey man, I loved your vibe. We have a similar style. What do you think? You want to do something? Because of course, at this point, Love Wrestling's still kind of new. We're looking for content. And I said, yeah, man, like I'm in, like we'll figure it out. And of course I kind of ghosted him. I tell him
Oh
this all
yeah,
the
yeah,
time.
yeah. I've heard
Only
this.
because not because I didn't want to work with him. It's because I didn't have any great idea. Because I was like, I want to do something that's a little different, that has a little different vibe to it. I don't want to just do a reaction show to whatever. Not that there's
Mm.
anything wrong with that. I'll do those. I love doing those. I love doing it, but I just wanted to, like, if we were going to do a show, I wanted it to be like just kind of its own unique deal. And then we got chit chatting again. He hit me up, he said, hey man, you got any ideas? And I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, yeah. And I just, hey, what about a show called Between Two Beards? He goes, go on. And I was like, yeah, this is the idea. This is what we want to do. So we tashed it out. We wanted to have a show where it's very open, very, there's no real, like, there's a plan, but we don't want you to
Is there?
regiment. There is most of the time. Some weeks we don't, but most of the time we've got at least an idea where we want to go. But we've always said, like, if the fans want us to go in a different direction, that's where we're going to go. If you're in the chat and you're talking about Canadian geese, for instance, we'll talk about it for 45 minutes, and we've done that.
Mm.
We will, what I'm saying, if anybody like pops in, we've had pop in guests here, pop in guests there, like an open door, like it's just fun for us. Like we'd rather just flow that
Yeah,
way and let you guys kind of dictate where we want to go. And I think that that's our genuine style. Like, we have an idea, we'll play with that idea. Like we said, it's a lot of plug and play, hit or miss, but we've got to do some really incredible things. We're actually coming up on episode 150 here in like 2 weeks.
congratulations.
Crazy to
May
think.
I'm not sure when this will air yet, so that may air. This may air after that. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, but if you're watching this after that, hopefully we've hit the 150 mark and haven't gotten fired yet.
I understand what you're saying completely there. So you talked about your chemistry with JPJ and things like that. We all think when we've had a few beers and things like that, we all think we like the way Chris Van Vliet describes it is like every podcaster, everyone that watches a game thinks we're really funny. We
Yeah.
could start do you know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
no, 100%.
so how did you and JPJ know that your chemistry would translate to a podcast?
We didn't. I don't think we did. I've never met him in person. He's from Boston. I'm from Indiana. Um, we didn't. It was a luck of the draw. I don't know if we're funny or we're doing a good job. That's for the fans to decide, the people that watch the show. I think we've had some growing pains throughout the 150. Don't get me wrong. I think there's been some, not, I don't want to say there's ever been any arguments or disagreements or anything. I think there's just like, maybe that didn't hit, maybe we tweak this here, maybe we run this here, just kind of feeling each other out and kind of knowing
Mm.
like each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses. But yeah, I mean, I had no clue. I was nervous as hell the first episode. I was like, what if people hate it? What if
Mm.
it's the worst thing that we've ever done? And I should, but that's me. I always think that way. I've never quite gotten past the whole, like, am I really good at this? Do people actually enjoy what I do thing?
Yeah.
Kind of imposter syndrome. But but we clicked, and one of the best compliments I think we got early on was like, you guys feel like you've been friends for 20 years. And it's like,
Mm,
no, we just met one stream, and it really worked. It doesn't hurt that JPJ is absolutely fantastic at what he does, and lets me just do the absolute ridiculous things that I do.
mm.
So that's nice. That helps. But yeah, it's crazy to think that we took a shot and it hit.
Where do you think you'd be if if you didn't decide to go between two beards?
Oh, that's tough to say. I'm not sure because we didn't start between two beards when I started with Love Wrestling. That was something that came a couple months into us being there. Like we had hit each other up at Mania, then we didn't start till May or June.
Mm.
Um, so I'd probably be doing reaction shows or whatever Love Wrestling needed me to do. Probably trying to come up with an idea. I'm always thinking about this, man. Like even in the tougher days of it and the harder days, I'm always thinking about what I want to do. What's the plan for today? Like a lot of it's just me going and shooting at the hip, but I'm also when I wake up, I'm thinking, okay, what kind of content do I want to make today? What happened last night that I could turn into something that's like me, that has my feel
Yeah.
to it with my opinions to it, but still be so I'd be doing something. Um, who knows? I really don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you I'm blessed that he sent that DM at because again, it's really hard. I know I'm not the content creator for everyone, and I can respect that, and I know my lane.
I don't
I
think
know
anyone's the content creator for everyone.
right, but I know that like I can be kind of off the wall sometimes and come up, and I can be like laser focused on one thing and
Mm.
run with it in a show and derail a program really quick if I'm like not careful. So it's really nice to have co-hosts and guys and gals that love wrestling that like understand that and like run with it and believe in me as a content creator to put me in the spaces that they've put me. So I'm pretty honored to say that.
Where do you think you'd be then if you never decided to join Love Wrestling?
I'd be doing something. I know I would. I was already before I joined Love Wrestling, I was doing audio podcasts a little bit. I was venturing in that direction. It's just like you kind of hit lightning in a bottle with the fellows over at Love Wrestling with Spencer, Zach, Josh, Blair, JPJ, all the people that were there before. Um, and then that becomes my focus. That becomes my hey, I work here. I love doing my own thing, but I love what we're doing over at Love Wrestling. And the fact I said those people believe in me, they've given me the keys to do things that I want to do. If I pitch an idea, they're like, go ahead, knock it out. So it's really cool. So yeah, I'd probably be doing it in some capacity. I'd be working with some people, I'm sure. I would hope maybe I would have eventually ventured out and gotten here, but it's been a real fun ride over the last 3 years to be with Love Wrestling. Or is it almost four? I don't know how many. It's we're getting up there in years,
Mm.
Tom.
It's crazy. I've known you for nearly two as we record this. Like Thanksgiving this year will be 2 years, pal,
Hey,
because I was you didn't stream it, but I was your
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
Day
episode of
special.
2 years ago, I believe,
Yep,
because
because we
we were gonna air your previous interviews in December. So JPJ reached out to me and was like, "Would you come on our show to promote?"
yeah yeah
And I
because
think at that,
we run
sorry,
on
man.
Thursday nights at 8 o'clock, baby, and in America, Thursday night, the last week of the month of November is Thanksgiving, so we actually ran live for the first time this year, our
Mm,
early morning. But that's the thing. We said, we still want to give people content. We're out of Canada, so it's not necessarily well, we're not out of Canada, but the company's out of Canada. It's
I
not
know what you mean.
necessarily their Thanksgiving. And they would let it, they would say if you want to take the day, we completely understand. But we said no, we want to we'll record something so we can air it. So that way again, we're there consistently. And yeah, you're one of our Thanksgiving Day specials, Tom.
That's correct. That was very, very cool. That was cool. That was a fun stream because it was like, oh, we didn't even stream it, did we? I think we pre-recorded it.
No, yeah, we re-recorded it.
And it was like, That was very fun because I think I'd done my buddy's podcast, but specifically about wrestling. You were the first show that I'd ever been on.
Oh, nice. Well, there you go. We're
Mm.
glad we're glad you're the first. We were the first.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that we were one of the first.
I didn't till just thought about it now. I was like, I've been on my buddy's podcast, the Anthony podcast, to do different topics and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and now
But
you've been
it's
on
never
Beards about
specifically about wrestling podcast.
now you've been on about probably 4 or 5 times at this point.
Yes.
You're getting
I,
close to
I
that 5 timers jacket, buddy.
I just sort of run in every now and then. I'm like, yeah, I like talking to these guys. It's fun.
That's the show we like to do, run-ins and just hanging out.
Mm. So you talked about their run-ins and just hanging out. How did you guys build up your, shall we say, Rolodex of people that you could be like, we're going to reach out to them to be like, do you want to hop on this week when you decide to have a guest? And first of all, when did you decide, okay, maybe it'd be cool to bring guests on?
I think we had talked about that, him and I, early on. Like, yeah, we want to have guests. We also want to do our own shows here and there. So, like, it just depends. It's all different things. Like, I had a pretty nice, and I don't want to act like I'm some big shot because I'm not, but I had a pretty nice following of people before I did this. So I was able to lean on a couple of those people that I'd already had
Mm.
relationships with early on. I think like Alex Kane was one of our first guests, and he was a guy that I've been following for a long time. Warren Hayes again was a guy that I had a relationship with, so it's like, hey, I could probably get this person on or this person on. And to be honest with you, I mean, it's not a lot of it is you just shoot your shot. You know, if you have an idea, shoot your shot and see if that person will join the
Mm.
show. Any love wrestling talent, like Spencer has always been very gracious about, like, or he'll say, hey, so and so's available this week, do you guys want to have them on? And we'll say, yeah, we'll do it. We're always down to have new people on. So it's just a lot of like timing, happenstance, or just having that relationship already where you can say, hey, like, come on and vibe with us or whatever it may be. But honestly, a lot of it's just you got to shoot, you got to send the shot, right? Like, if you don't DM the person or email the person and ask, they can't say no, but they can't say yes either, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it's just, and then again, we've grown this following of people, like they like to come on our shows. As far as I know, that we haven't had anybody say, oh, we're never doing that again. But then again, but you know, from the people we've talked to, the Love Wrestling locker room especially, like they all say, oh yeah, we love being on. If we can come on anytime, just let us know. Everybody's been super accommodating, like I said. So I've been very fortunate and very lucky to get to work with a lot of the people I've gotten to work with on Beards. And then it's also translated into doing some other things outside of Beards with, which has been very cool.
So you talked about there, first of all, being very lucky to have the guests that you've had on. And
Mm-hmm.
then second of all, doing some things outside of it. So first of all, how give the good people some advice who maybe want to start a podcast. What's your advice for starting a podcast? And then what's your advice for developing a Rolodex of contacts to get people on your show?
Oh boy. My best advice to anybody that thinks about podcasting is I would just say do it. Just do it. I know that's easier said than done. It took me years to be that guy that was like, you know what, I can put my face on this thing. I'm going to put myself out there and show myself to the world, so to speak. Because I believe wholeheartedly that content is quality is important, but quantity is more important, in my opinion. If you're not putting anything out for anybody to judge, because you're so worried that it has to be perfect, that it has to look a certain way, and you have to be this person over here. You need to just find what you love, harness that in and do it. And like I said, be consistent with it. Like, because it's easy to go, and I'm guilty of it too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I had an audio podcast I said I was going to do every week this year, and there's been a few weeks I've missed this year because of I'm like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Just try it out, put it out there. Because again, like I said, like if you don't have anything out there, then you have nothing out there. But at least if you're
Mm.
putting, because like I said, a lot of my stuff is on the fly. Like I tried it, I gave it a shot, I tweaked it here. Okay, that didn't look quite right. Like you look back, I used to do these things in my car, like audio podcast in my car on an app through the Bluetooth in my phone
I
because
think
it was the
our
best.
first podcast was you in your car. I
It might have
think.
been, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't done that in a while. It's been a minute since I've done the car casts. But my point is like if you love it, if whether it's wrestling, whether it's movies, TVs, just do it. Start small, do what's comfortable for you. You don't have to be, you know, the top of the food chain right away. Work your way up,
Oh,
grind it out. It's going to take some time.
mm.
It might catch, and then you never know who's going to catch it and go, I like that. That was good. I'm now following that person. And then the building of the Rolodex thing is,
That is a
I
word, right?
yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. I will say that is tougher. That's a tougher thing than just doing a podcast. I mean, that's the easy part. But having a good reputation, being polite, you can, reach out to guests. I try to do it. Trial and error. I used to just throw a bunch of Facebook messages out there and hope, whatever would stick and then I would make it work. But I've kind of refined that process over the years now where it's more of a, does this guest make sense in this aspect? Will it make
Yeah.
sense for what we're talking about this week? Oh, or like obviously if cool opportunities fall in your lap, but
Mm.
just be, courteous, be respectful of that person's time. Be polite when you ask. Don't get discouraged when they don't respond because it happens. I know it's tough. Easier said than done stuff, but just chip away and work with the people that want to work with you and then eventually it'll work out. So like you start small, you work with you work with this guy and then this girl and this person and then it kind of branches itself out. That's really how I've done it is just grinding it out.
That's very, very cool, my friend. Something
Yeah.
you talked about in this podcast, just as we started off, and I realized we brushed over it, and I didn't
Uh-oh.
mean to, was wanting to remain anonymous when you first started,
Yeah.
almost. So why was that you wanted to remain anonymous? And then what was the moment that you were like, I think I can show my face to the world, sort of thing?
Because I'm a spaz, Tom.
Okay.
In the greatest of senses, I'm a bit of a spaz sometimes. Like I said, I did the sports thing for a little while. I did some stuff there and I put a lot of effort into that. But then again, like I said, my heart wasn't into it. I wasn't quite feeling it. So I still every once in a while do a little here and there. I love my sports, but when I started the wrestling thing, I just wanted it to be me. I just wanted to not have I didn't want to like blow it up and like, oh, look, I started this wrestling thing. Everybody come join it, come like it, come do all that. And then realize that I'm not into it. My heart's
Yeah.
not into it. The effort I put into it's not there. And then what did I just do? I just told everybody, hey, I'm doing this thing. And then I completely stopped doing it. So, like I said, I kind of wanted to see where I was at with it, kind of get my feet wet in it. So, like I said, I started just like tweeting under my Wrestling Plug Inc. alias, if you will, like as the brand that because initially I envisioned maybe I'd grow a brand and I get some more people involved. And I just realized that my passion for this was different than anybody else's at the time, like early on. Like, how am I going to
Mm.
get people to like this niche sport as much as I do? And keep them consistent when I'm not consistent. So I made sure, like, all right, I'm consistently doing it. And then I started, like I said, I went to an independent wrestling show and it opened my eyes for the first time. I didn't even realize independent wrestling was a thing so early on. And then I was like, well, I could start maybe reaching out to some of these people that I've met through this in the context I got here and start doing some written interviews. So I really started small with just like some written spotlight pieces on independent wrestlers from my city.
Mm.
And then it started again. People started to recognize me when I would go out, not like by mass amounts of people, but a couple like, hey, what's up?
Plugomania.
Not even that. I wasn't Pluggo yet. I was still John from Wrestling Plug Inc.
Ah.
But I just it just started kind of it gradually grew. It's like, hey, I'm doing these audio podcasts with these people. Now these people are saying, "Hey, why don't you come and do mine?" And then it's just you're sitting there, and then like I start doing things with throwback, like I said earlier, and he was the first one to ask me on an audio pod or video podcast. I didn't even know. I didn't know what to do there. I was like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, I can do that, and I had to like figure out a setup because again, a very DIY. I didn't have a laptop at the time. I had just my phone. I like set my phone up and I was like, is my audio good? Like it was car crash early on. But I started to like, again, those guys like my vibe and like kind of let me be me. And nobody was telling me to like, yeah, you got to act this way, you got to act that way. Just do what you do best. And it's gotten me this far. And now I'm on screen all the time.
Mm.
I'm
It's
always
very
so,
well it's very well deserved, my friend.
I
Something,
appreciate that.
something we also talked about during this is you also talked about off camera to me the amount of wrestling you now have to watch because of Between Two Beards and making sure you stay up to date with everything. First of all, how do you make sure that Plugger is still a wrestling fan though, and doesn't just watch wrestling for the podcast?
Balance, my friend, balance. Oh,
Oh,
did I lose you there?
no, I still got you.
Oh, okay. I lose your face, but that's all right if you still got me. Hopefully you can edit that.
Yeah, yeah.
Hold on. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. You still, I got you. I don't know what happened. My screen went blank there. I'll full stop here and I'll just answer the question. Or do you want to
Yeah.
ask the question again?
So, how do you make sure that Plugger is still a wrestling fan?
With balance, dude. I balance it out. I make sure to find some other things to watch here and there. I try to turn it off when I can. Obviously being in the content creation space, like if you're not up on the product and now it's an every day a week thing, pretty much. You just got to find the time. I may miss a show here or there, like I might not watch an NXT show, or I might even miss a Monday Night Raw. But I'll catch it, I'll catch up to it in time to talk about it on
Mm.
Beards. I may not be tweeting about it and I may not be posting on my Facebook page about it or things like that, but I'll catch up on it so I can go to the show and talk about what we want to talk about. But again, it is the wonderful thing about Beards that I could come with a plan and that plan completely get derailed by whatever we decide to do. So that is very nice. But yeah, it's just all about balance, man. Like, knowing where I can watch and where I can't watch and balancing the wife and the kids and life and the work and all that. If I have to do something on my lunch break at work, I'll watch something on my lunch break or write about something on my lunch break because I love what I do. But I also know that there are some nights that I need to just binge watch some TV show that's not wrestling related just to kind of
Yeah.
reset. It can be a lot.
You talk about it being a lot there. How does
Yeah.
Plugger deal with burnout?
Um, I think burnout is real, and I don't think that it means I love this any less. I know that I've seen some, discourse on Twitter. Well, you asked for this or you signed up for this, not towards me personally, but maybe some bigger content creators that,
Yeah.
work for bigger companies. You see the haters in the comments. I don't think that means that they love it any less. I don't think it means I love it any less. It just means that, you know what, you can go 10 straight days of like, we'll use WrestleMania weekend as an example. There's shows 8, 9, 10 days in a row. The collective weekend is on top of that. So if you follow independent wrestling like I do, you're watching that too. And it can just become like you need to
Mm.
decompress because you're always, as a content creator, you're always trying to, make the next thing, keep with the pace, but it's okay to take a day and just go, you know what? I don't got it today. Today is not my day for wrestling. I'm just gonna do whatever. And I am lucky enough and fortunate enough that I have enough other stuff going on that I don't have to solely focus on my wrestling that day. I have plenty of opportunities where I can go, I got to go to a sporting event for the kids, or I've got, this, that, and the other going on with the family. So I can at least take a break for a few hours. But burnout's a real thing. And I think we've all been there. I think everybody from the top of the wrestling community to the bottom has felt it. And I don't think anybody's wrong for feeling that way at times. And it's okay. It's completely okay to take a day off. It's completely okay to text whoever it is you were. Luckily, I said love wrestling. Say, hey guys, today's not my day. Like,
Mm.
sorry I wasn't as active in everything that we were doing, and they'll understand. And I think that that's a cool thing. Like, you don't have to have your foot on the gas pedal 24/7. I don't think anything less of anybody that says, you know what, I only want to do a podcast two times a month because I get burnt out if I do it anymore. That's fine with me. I respect that. I'm just a crazy person that I was always tweeting and always posting as much as I can. But don't worry, I take my days off.
Mm. I
I
understand what
take
you're
my
saying.
time. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying completely there. The other thing you brought up, my friend, was a love of independent wrestling. So before we look at wrapping this up, because believe it or not, we've been going nearly an hour, and I do want to be respectful of your time. What
Oh, I can go for days, Tom.
I know,
What
man, and I do
what is what
appreciate
is
that.
what is time when I'm talking with Tom Talks Rubbish, man?
I know, and I
Time is
do
a
appreciate that,
constraint.
man.
Oh, it's because I love you.
I love you too. You know that, man. So
That's
when
right.
it comes to connecting with Blair to start
Mm,
the For Exposure podcast, how does that
yes.
come about? How did that change how you watch wrestling? And how do you make your chemistry different let me start that question again. How do you make your chemistry different than with JPJ for beards?
Um, for Blair, he came on to Love Wrestling a little later in the game. We had, Spencer. I actually didn't know Blair that well much at all before. I knew a little bit of his podcast, Grainmaker Podcast. Shout out to that. He came in the fold and around, God, I want to say last year sometime. And I liked his vibe. He was doing brunches. It's kind of similar to JPJ with me. It was like I liked his vibe. I liked what he brought to the table. We were looking to do more stuff, and I messaged him and I said, "Hey," because this was around the collective weekend last year, and
Hmm.
there was so much amazing independent wrestling going on, and we weren't talking about it. We had NXT shows, Dynamite shows, Raw React, all that. We had all of it. And I was like, but nobody's talking about this section of it on our channel. I know there's plenty of other people that do, and shout out to all of them. But I said, I like watching independent wrestling. I would love to talk more about it. We don't generally talk too much about it on Beards. Um, and I said, hey, Blair, like I have this just idea that I've been tossing around for a long time. I want to do an independent wrestling show. And he was like, yeah, dude, I love independent wrestling, which I knew he did. He does an independent wrestling podcast. And
Yeah.
um, we started kicking around ideas and trying to come up with what we wanted to do in a time that worked for both of us. And I said, well, Saturday mornings, man, like early enough in the day where we could do it and then be off to our day. We don't have to commit to anything else for the rest of the day. We can just, and he was like, yeah. And then I was like, what about For Exposure? Like, that's the name. Like, what do you think? And he was like, he was in. So it's been great. And it's like I said, we get to talk independent wrestling. We still have a good vibe where, like, if we talk about other things, if other things kind of offshoot, and
Yeah, yeah.
him and I's relationship is, I think, I don't want to say the same because it's different. Obviously, JPJ and him are different people, but we kind of have a similar vibe where it's like, here's where we want to go. Let's go this direction. We've kind of fine-tuned it over the course of the almost a year of doing that show where it's like, feeling each other out. And more so with him than I did with JPJ. I had to really kind of, because Blair and he was so new into it and we hadn't really worked together a lot. Um, but yeah, we've kind of found a nice click, a nice little niche. We get to talk about wrestling. We make sure that it works out, schedule wise. And we've gotten to the point now where we're doing specials for the LPW promotion that we have at Love Wrestling, where we get to get
Mm.
Boris involved and Dash, the commentators involved. We've had some cool little guests on here and there. But yeah, him and I just bounced that idea off each other and it's been awesome. Like I got lucky, man. I get to work with two guys that put up with me on a week to week basis and go, that's just Pluggo being Pluggo. And they let us go off into these little tangents and these little Blair plays a very good straight man, by the way. He
Yeah, I've
plays
noticed
as
that.
JPJ plays the angry, grumpy vet really well, and he's always like, no, you know what I mean? Like JPJ. He's always like, let's keep it on course. Blair plays the like, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed card very well.
I understand.
when when I start talking about random stuff. So no, but it's been great, man. I got two really cool co-hosts on a weekly basis that let me do my thing, and I love what they bring to the table. I wouldn't change it for nothing. I wouldn't change what they do for nothing. They're fantastic at what they do. It's hard to hit lightning in a bottle twice, and I think I've done it. So I don't know if I could start a third show with anybody else because I wouldn't want to have a 2 out of 3 situation.
Mm. Yeah, that's very true. As we
I'm
look around,
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm open for things. You guys can book me. I'm open. I'm available. We'll work together. I'm just
I
kidding.
know, my friend. So, as we look at wrapping this up, Pluggo, I have 3 questions for you. First of all,
3.
what
Woo.
is the coolest thing in that on that wall behind you, do you think?
Coolest thing. The blow in the budget book that my wife made for me. Um, for our 100th episode, we cut a new intro, and she
Mm,
was like, "You need a book." It says "Blow in the Budget 101" by best-selling author Mrs. Pluggo, because she's my rock, man. All of this is because of her. She put it all together. I was just a boring white background before I got going, and then it's grown over the years. But I've gotten, some very cool stuff. I got my Brody Lee action figure over there, my CM Punk's over there. Got some cool Warrior wrestling posters when they come into town. So yeah, I got a lot of cool, but this is a book, man. That book, Mrs. Pluggo, without her, this is impossible, dude. She's very accommodating. Anytime I say, hey, I gotta shoot downstairs, do an interview, she says, okay, go for it. She tells me do all the things. She's never said don't do that.
mm.
So I appreciate her.
I blame you for my Funko Pop obsession, by the way. I
Hey man,
blame
I
you.
blame. Yeah, there you go. There's a few more up there. There might be. Yeah, look at that. Oh, yeah, there's more. I
Yeah.
can't fit them all in the shot. I blame her for that. She started buying them on clearance or getting them, and then I do try to maintain some sort of like, I have to have a reason to want it. Like I don't just buy them unless they're dirt cheap. Like a lot of these were on half off or something, so I'd get some. But I have to be like, no, I want that, and then I'll
Mm,
get it. I try to make sure that I have a reason, not just buy it just to buy it. Because if that was the case, I would need a separate room and
mm.
not just a few shelves behind me.
What is it about Funko Pops that you love so much?
There's wrestlers on them.
Is that
I
literally it?
Yeah, I don't really. They're nice. They sit really well. They store really nice. They all neatly fit. They're kind of cool. Look, my kids like to look at them, but yeah, it's just stuff with wrestlers. Like I've got the regular action figures behind me too, but yeah, Funkos are just cool.
I understand what you're saying completely there. So, as we look at wrapping this up, Plugger, like I said, I have 2 more questions for you before we
All
do
right.
a segment that's a staple on this channel, which is generic questions and the wrap up questions. Do you view your career in wrestling media as a success, first of all, my friend? And second
Yeah.
of all, if you looked at wrapping this up tomorrow, what would you want your legacy as a creator to be?
Um. Yeah, I would say that I'm a success. Success is measured by the person that's doing the thing. So like, I never thought I'd be here doing it the way that I've been doing it, working with the people that I'm working with, getting to have the conversations I've gotten to have and the opportunities I've gotten to have with a lot of cool wrestlers, media personalities, getting to go to Fastlane and do media there. Like, never in my wildest dreams that I think that I was going to get those opportunities. So I view every day as a success. I go, you know what? If I stop tomorrow, if I shut it down, if I said Pluggo's done, he's out of the game, he just wants to go be a dad, because that's the end game. If I ever decide to quit this thing, it's because I'm just gonna go right off into the sunset and train my youngest to be a wrestler, be his dad. Not that I'm not his dad, but you get what I'm saying. Where I'm just gonna go. That's it. No more wrestling creation for me. I'm just gonna go do that. The hobby is no, because it was a hobby and now it's become a second job, so to speak. But what I would want people to just that I was genuine and that I was a nice guy. like I love everything that everybody's doing. I tweeted about it this morning. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
There's so many dope people in this space doing so many cool things, cooler things than I could ever imagine doing. And I just want those people to know that like I've support everything you do. Just that he was supportive, that I was supportive, and that I was fun. That was kind of fun. And I kind of knew what I was talking about here and there. I don't know. I didn't think about that, Tom. I should have had some prepared statement ready for what you were going to ask me about what I want people to think about me in
No,
this
no, no,
space.
no, no. I don't want that. I
Because
want the on the cuff or on the cuff. No, I want the opposite. The off the
no,
cuff.
that the off the cuff. That's it, man. Because I never got into this expecting anything. I still don't ever expect anything. I have zero expectations of what tomorrow is going to bring for me. I just know that if I keep putting my best foot forward and putting forth the effort and grinding every day, things will come, and I'm open to all sorts of cool ideas and opportunities. My DMs are always open. If whoever's I'm never shy away from that. I try to answer them when I can, as quickly as possible, and I try to be as accommodating as possible and do as many things I can. So I just want everybody to be like, you know what, that Pluggo guy, he was all right.
Hmm. I
That's what I
understand what
want.
you.
That's what I want. I want everybody to look back and go, he was all right.
Yeah, that's very, very cool, my friend. But as we look at wrapping this up, Pluggo, we are going to do a segment that, like I said, is a staple on this channel. It's called Generic Questions. Those of you that have seen my interviews before, when I asked our last Pluggo, his favorite wrestling match, favorite pay-per-view, such as Double or Nothing 2019, favorite wrestler's entrance theme, favorite tag team, and favorite wrestler. Basically, the questions I assume Pluggo might be asked on social media. So now he'll have a place to be like, guys, I have answered this. Please go watch this. So, what's your favorite match of all time?
I will do that. I also don't know if I'll ever get to a level where I'll get sick of those questions, so I'll answer them. But favorite wrestling match, the one that sticks out to me the most is Cena and Punk from Money in the Bank 2011. Um, just
Mm.
absolutely fantastic. The all the components to that just absolutely ruled. You had Punk leaving, you had Cena, the guy that nobody liked. It was in Chicago, Punk's hometown. I mean, it was just epic. I still watch that back on probably every 6 months or so. I'll fire that thing up and watch it. Favorite pay-per-view? Is that what you asked me?
Yeah, as in
Oh,
pay-per-view cards such as Double or Nothing 2019.
geez, man. That's really put me on the spot. This past Mania was really good. That card's really good, by the way. I know this airs, but WrestleMania 40. This was very good. That's a tough one, man. I like a lot of different things. That first All Out was really good in AEW. That was a really good card. The first All Out.
What,
Um
2019?
2019. Yeah, 2018, 2019. Yeah, it'd have been 2019. Yeah, that one was really good. Those early pay-per-views for All Out were all, and I know that I'm sure somebody will go, oh, AEW, the tribalism, but it was those the first year of
Yeah.
pay-per-views was solid. It's tough, man. I don't have cards that I look at and just go like that was amazing. I just look at like matches. So I'm really weird like that. You put me on the spot. I didn't have time to prepare. All the pay-per-views are good, Tom. All of them.
Mm. But for a picture's sake, should we say Double or Nothing 2019?
Is that what you're asking me to say? Whatever you want, Tom.
I'm asking you for an answer because I like to put pictures up.
Oh, do you have a picture of Double or Nothing 2019
I mean,
ready
I
to
can
go?
get one. I can get
This
one.
this this better stay in the interview. We'll go with Double or Nothing 2019.
Fair enough, my friend. What about your favorite
If
wrestlers?
I watch this back and you chop it up to make it sound like I picked it on the fly, I'm gonna get you, Tom. No.
What about your favorite wrestler's entrance theme?
Oh man. Obviously I love CM Punk's my favorite wrestler of all time. So that right now I get Strickland's Swerve when I drive stuck in my head all the time. So
Is that because you swerve when you drive?
no, I'm a very responsible driver. But if you see me at work or something and I'm like bopping a little bit, it's because I got that playing in my head. So that theme is very well done. Um, yeah, those are my two.
What about your favorite tag team?
My favorite tag team growing up, I like the Outsiders from the NWO. I thought that was a cool vibe. Um, the Dudley Boys were always fun in that era as well. So yeah, that would probably be the tag teams that I'd go. You know what? I resonate with them.
Mm. You alluded
Hardcore.
to you alluded to your favorite wrestler there, but over as we wrap
Oh,
this up, Plugger, the biggest generic question, in my opinion, who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
CM Punk. He's the guy that made me like I talked about Mick Foley early on as the first guy I gravitated to and I really loved. And there's always he's on my Mount Rushmore. So like because it's hard to have one favorite, but it's CM
Mm.
Punk for me. He reignited my love for the game. Back when I had kind of fallen out of wrestling, got back into it. He's at his height, he's at his peak. He was different, his vibe, Second City Saint. So I kind of fell in love with CM Punk. I loved that whole vibe that he was given. And say what you will about him now, but every time his music hits, I still get excited to see him. So I'm a CM Punk guy.
That's very, very cool, my friend. So
Yeah.
as we wrap this up, Plugger, obviously I want to say thank you for another great conversation. But as we wrap this up, the question I end this show on is I believe as content creators, podcasters, people, even people with just social media, we're all going to sort of live forever in some sort of very, very, very weird way, if you think about the world. So what is one piece of content you're like, I'd like to be remembered for that? And then what is one that you're like, yuck, please forget about that?
Well, one piece of content that I want to be remembered for. Jeez, man. You're killing me today. Just anything that I've done for Love Wrestling, like it's just a vibe. The Between Two Beards, the Four Exposure stuff,
Mm.
like for me, and just any of the stuff that we've done. Like remember me for this run because it's like so much fun. We're doing such cool things. We're still every day coming up with something new. I'm trying to think. I mean, it was fun. You were on the show when SRS, Sean Ross
Yeah,
Sapp, for those that don't know, came and roasted Spencer Love. That was fun.
that was fun.
Um, just that's always a fun time, but just me specific, man, like just because that's my baby. Between Two Beards is my baby. JPJ and I's baby. For Exposure, it's content that like I'm proud that we put out every week. I'm happy we put it out every week. So like stuff that I want you to forget about. I don't know where it would be at if you could
Mm.
even find. I don't know if you could find it at this point. I don't know because it's so early on and I don't remember half of it. But I did do a podcast while trying to change a tire on a car
Wait, what?
because I used to do them in my car, and then
Oh
I got
yeah.
I got a call to go take somebody needed me, and I was middle of recording, and I was like, just you guys figured this out real quick. I got an emergency to take care of it. It just was a very choppy situation. But no, like my earlier stuff, like yeah, it was rough. It was very DIY, didn't sound great. I think that's a lot of us. Like we grow and we realize, but
Oh yeah.
I'm proud of it because it was an attempt. It was things
Cool.
that I was trying. It was putting myself out there because again, I was very for as outgoing as I am on these streams and things like that and these podcasts. It took me a long time to kind of get the confidence to go because I was like, what if people hate it? What if people hate it? And then I
Mm.
realized one day, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like it and it's not for you, change the channel. Somebody might like it. But
Mm.
I knew going in that if I didn't love it, no, if I didn't love it, it would show. But if people didn't like it, I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it just because it was something that I loved to do. It was something that I enjoyed doing, and I had hoped that some people would come along for the ride, and a lot more people than I ever anticipated have, and I'm very grateful for that. So I love all my content, Tom. Watch it
Mm.
all.
I understand. And to be
Just
honest,
kidding.
I think that's a beautiful way to end it, my friend. So please promote yourself. Where can the good people find you, Pluggo, your work, etc.?
Well, you can find me at Pluggo on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I'm forgetting one, Twitter. You can find my show with every Thursday night at 8 p.m. with JPJ Between Two Beards on Love Wrestling CA on YouTube. And then our show page for that is at B2 Beards on all social media platforms I just mentioned. That's how you keep up to date with what we got going on and what's happening. And you never know what's going to happen. So you got to stay tuned to the socials because we promote the shit out of everything. And then For Exposure with Blair Saturday mornings, most Saturday mornings at 10. Sometimes we do a different night or time of the weekend, just based on what we got going on, but mainly 10 o'clock. You can find that at For Exposure Pod on Twitter, updates on that. You could find my podcast that I do, Unplugged with Pluggo. It's just an audio podcast. So any audio podcast that you have, it'll be there. I do that every week ish. Like I said, I've missed a few. And then you can find writing that I do. I do some writing too. I do it all, Tom. I try to anyway. Do some writing for Love Wrestling on Love Wrestling CA. That's where you can find like LPW previews that I do, or I do these get to know spotlights with independent wrestlers. Just trying to keep myself busy.
It's well worth checking out his work, guys. Not
Thank
only
you.
one of the hardest working people in this space, but one of the nicest as well. So if you guys like this, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talks Irish on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X. I still can't do that when I've got the microphone in my hand. At Tom Talks Irish. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye now.